Hello everyone, welcome back. We have discussed political risk. Well, let's turn now to political risk mitigation strategy. The question is how to mitigate political risk volatility. And that boils down to asking how choosing and picking countries that exemplify a unique combination of socio-political stability, economic growth, and good market prospects. Well, that's easier to say than to do. Sometimes the investor, the banker, is already in the country at the time of economic or political turmoil, country risk tsunamis, exactly like the individual living in the country, and it's too late to run away. So what are the means and ways to mitigate risk? Well, the question of risk mitigation is not academic. Every year, business loses billions of dollars or euros due to country risk. Ernst & Young survey in the fall of 2017 shows that external forces driving disinvestment out of the countries are for 76% macroeconomic volatility and for 56% political uncertainty. And disinvesting costs a lot, including in human resources. Think of Bolivia, Argentina, Mexico, but also Turkmenistan or Zimbabwe or even Tunisia in the aftermath of the Arab Spring. Well, the top priority, of course, is choosing the right country to invest, to lend money, or to live also. And choosing is not easy. In fact, it's complex given that there is little consensus regarding the way things go. Is democracy with robust institutions a prerequisite for sustained economic growth? Or political preferences do not matter? And the key is boosting human capital accumulation with stable socio-political conditions, even with dictatorships. There are many countries, after all, with strong growth and little democracy. Think of South Korea or Singapore or even Morocco. But when turmoil is about to start, the best risk mitigation strategy is access to good information sources. Then, with financial hedging is possible, it can provide risk mitigation such as collateral and guarantees or co-financing under the umbrella of multilateral institutions such as IFC of the World Bank. And last but not least, there's a number of private and public insurance companies. Well, let's glance at these companies. Starting with national, that means public insurance, each country of the OECD has its own insurance agency that aims at boosting export and investment flows, and jobs, of course. These companies are the ECA's, export credit agencies, such as Exim Bank in the US, COFAS in France, SACE in Italy, or CECE in Madrid in Spain. A second group of country risk insurance companies belong to the IFIs, International Financial Institutions, starting with the World Bank's affiliate, MIGA, which stands for Multilateral Investment Guarantee Authority, that was set up in the late 1980s. MIGA is the political risk insurance and credit enhancement arm of the World Bank, mainly focused on developing countries where instability might impede or slow down FDI, foreign direct investment. The third group of insurance companies for country risk is private, in fact, including, for instance, Lloyd's or AIG or Hiscox in London. The International Center for the Settlement of Investment Dispute is a byproduct of the rise in FDI flows between developed and developing countries over the last 30 years. Almost each country in the world is now a member of the center, with the notable exception of Russia, Guinea-Bissau, Ethiopia, and Namibia. Its job, its mission, is to provide intermediation for investment disputes between companies in developed countries of the OECD and companies or countries, governments, in emerging market countries. This graph gives you a pretty good idea of the evolution in cross-border disputes since the late 1990s. That also reflects both the decline in international bank loans and the surge in FDI since the Asian crisis of 1998. APIC is a US federal government agency that provides political risk insurance for boosting US private investment, and that in 160 developing nations. The main risks that are insured are expropriation, confiscation, and increasingly, of course, terrorism. EPIC is de facto the development agency of the US government. However, EPIC strives to show that it is not a tax burden on US taxpayers because EPIC charges market-based fees for its insurance products. Hence, it operates on a self-sustaining basis. Now, let's look at MIGA. MIGA belongs, as I said, to the World Bank Group in Washington, D.C. MIGA is not a lender, it's an insurer. MIGA issues guarantees for periods up to 15 years and sometimes up to 20 years in developing countries. The minimum length of a guarantee is 3 years. In guarantees that cover loans, MIGA usually issues coverage to match the length of the loans, the maturity of the loans. Since its exception in 1988, MIGA has issued more than $28 billion in political risk insurance for projects in a wide range of sectors covering all regions in the world. In 2017, MIGA's outstanding gross exposure is around $14 billion, of which 50% is in the so-called IDA eligible countries, that is, poor countries, mostly in Africa. Well, a good deal of MIGA's country risk insurance is focused on breach of contracts. That means losses which stem from the host government's breach or repudiation of a contractual agreement with the investor. And think of examples in Bolivia, in Argentina, or in Zimbabwe. So it is not surprising that the majority of disputes where MIGA intervenes has to do with the mining and infrastructure sectors, two sectors that require large investment and a very long-term horizon, such as 10, 15, or 20 years. They account for nearly half of the total volume of cross-border investment. Finally, let's keep in mind that MIGA must obtain approval from the host government in order to offer a guarantee to the investor. But as many countries in the world, in fact, each country in the world competes to attract FDI flows, MIGA is a good and welcome umbrella for boosting investment in emerging market countries. Let's also look at a few private political risk insurance agencies, for instance, Euler Hermes and AIG. Euler Hermes is a leader in credit insurance. It is based in more than 50 countries in the world, and it belongs to the Allianz Group. Hermes was launched, in fact, as early as 1917, just during World War I, and today it provides a full range of country risk assessment tools, including, of course, country risk information and economic intelligence under the form of reports and country analysis. Lloyd's and March are specialized private agencies for political risk mitigation, that is, non-commercial risk in emerging market countries. Well, joining forces with the WEF, the World Economic Forum, the team of country risk experts of March publishes an annual country risk report that provides very good outlook on the threats facing the world today, while looking at some of the root causes of political risk volatility, such as rising inequality, wealth gaps, political polarization, nationalism, terrorism, and disruptive technological changes. That's a very good source of information and analysis. Well, all in all, risk mitigation should not, boil down to just picking up the phone and calling MIGA in Washington or COFAS in Paris. It should be the byproduct of 4 combining tactics converging. First, access to up-to-date and reliable information. I will keep repeating that. Second, economic intelligence conducive to cross-country comparison scenarios and exposure strategy. 3, financial hedging tools. And last but not least, risk insurance and guarantees. Thank you.